September 2025, Anna Wintour transitions to a new role after 37 years leading American Vogue, except she doesn't leave. She becomes Chief Content Officer of Condé Nast, appoints her digital protege to handle day-to-day operations, and oversees from above. The editor-in-chief title that defined fashion for a century? Retired. The woman who held it? Still involved at the highest level. So what exactly is changing at Vogue? Look at the organizational chart Condé Nast released in September 2025. Anna Wintour's name sits above everything. Global Editorial Director of Vogue, Chief Content Officer of Condé Nast. Below her, 10 heads of editorial content for different editions. Among them, Chloe Malle, running American Vogue's day-to-day operations. The historic title, Editor-in-Chief of American Vogue, has been officially retired. Not reassigned, not evolved. Retired. The title existed for over a century, and it meant something specific. It meant you were the voice of American fashion, the arbiter, the authority. Diana Vreeland held it. Grace Mirabella held it. Anna Wintour transformed it into something beyond magazines, a cultural throne. Now that position has been restructured. In its place stands something corporate, diffuse, carefully managed, head of editorial content. A title that could belong to any digital platform, any content operation, any brand looking to tell stories. Wintour explained the shift with characteristic precision. Malle would handle the balance between American Vogue's long, singular history and its future on the front lines of the new. Balance. That word doing extraordinary work. Because what this structure actually creates is supervision with delegation. Strategic oversight with operational independence. Wintour can focus on Vogue's multifaceted growth across its global audiences and publications, while Malle manages America. The Met Gala remains under Wintour's purview. Global strategy stays in her portfolio. Major partnerships, celebrity relationships, the ineffable thing that makes Vogue matter, still within her influence. Company memos insisted that nothing is really going to change in Vogue's mission. The same memos that announced significant restructuring, the same corporate communications that retired a century-old title while promising continuity. And perhaps that captures the nature of this transition. It restructures while maintaining core elements. Evolution through org charts. Transformation via reporting structures. To understand what Chloe Malle inherits, you have to understand what Anna Wintour built. Not edited, not managed, built. When Wintour arrived at American Vogue in 1988, fashion magazines were about fashion. Clothes on models, trends for seasons, beauty tips, industry news for industry people. Wintour looked at that formula and demolished it. Her first cover featured a model in jeans, Michaela Bercue in a Christian Lacroix haute couture jacket paired with Guess denim. The fashion establishment gasped. Jeans, on the cover of Vogue, mixed with couture. It was sacrilege. It was genius. It was the announcement of a new era. Under Wintour, Vogue stopped being about fashion and became about culture wearing fashion. Celebrities replaced models on covers. Athletes appeared in ball gowns. Politicians posed in designer suits. Michelle Obama, Beyoncé, Rihanna, Lady Gaga, not because they were fashion icons, but because they were cultural forces that fashion needed to acknowledge. The magazine became required reading not for what it said about hemlines, but for what it said about power. The Met Gala transformed from a charity fundraiser into fashion's Super Bowl. The September issue documentary turned Wintour into a character. The Devil Wears Prada, supposedly fiction, obviously not, made her a myth. She wasn't just editing a magazine. She was running an empire that determined who mattered, what mattered, when it mattered. 37 years of this. 37 years of Anna Wintour being not just the editor of Vogue, but the embodiment of it. The sunglasses, the bob, the front row at every show that mattered, the capacity to make or destroy careers with a nod or its absence. She became inseparable from the institution. Vogue was Anna. Anna was Vogue, which created a succession challenge no organizational restructuring could fully solve. How do you replace someone who isn't just doing a job but inhabiting an identity? The answer Condé Nast found: You restructure around them. You create new titles, new hierarchies, new reporting lines that acknowledge a transition while maintaining continuity. Enter Chloe Malle. 2011. She's 26 years old, joining Vogue as social editor. The title barely existed 5 years earlier. Social media was still something fashion treated with suspicion. Real fashion happened on runways and in magazines. The internet was for commerce, not culture. But Malle understood something her predecessors didn't. The internet wasn't separate from culture. It was becoming culture. She covered weddings for the society pages, built Vogue's early social presence, learned the institution from the inside. By 2014, she told an interviewer she'd originally wanted to be a writer, not an editor, but was seduced by the Vogue machine. Seduced, not hired, not recruited. Seduced. The word choice matters. It implies something irresistible, something that changes you, something you can't quite escape once it has you. By 2016, she'd moved to contributing editor, writing features, overseeing special projects, still learning the particular alchemy that makes something Vogue. Not just good, not just stylish. Vogue. That ineffable quality that separates fashion authority from fashion content. Then came 2023 and her appointment as editor-in-chief of Vogue.com. Different title, different domain, but suddenly she held real power. Print circulation was declining industry-wide. Digital competitors were emerging. Fashion influence was fragmenting across Instagram, TikTok, newsletters, Substacks. Everyone was a fashion critic now. Everyone had a platform. Malle's mandate was clear. Strengthen Vogue's digital presence. Not just maintain it, strengthen it. The numbers tell one story. Under her leadership, direct traffic to Vogue.com doubled. Unique monthly visitors hit 14.5 million. Engagement metrics soared. She launched email newsletters, digital-only magazines like Dog. Yes, Vogue for Dogs, both absurd and absurdly successful. She expanded weddings and society coverage by 30%. She co-hosted the Run-Through podcast with UK Vogue's Chloe Malle. But numbers don't capture what she actually did. She made Vogue feel native to the internet instead of translated to it. The website stopped being a digital version of the magazine and became its own entity. Still Vogue, but Vogue reimagined for people who experience fashion through screens, not pages. Her colleagues describe her approach as reportorial, curious, narrative-driven. A reporter's attention to story rather than spectacle, one analysis noted. She covered Biden family weddings with the same intensity others brought to runway shows. She understood that in the digital age, everything is fashion if you frame it right. Politics is fashion. Weddings are fashion. Dogs, apparently, are fashion. Here's where Malle's vision becomes particularly notable. American Vogue's circulation has fallen below 1 million, a decade low. The magazine that once defined American style now reaches a smaller print audience than in its heyday. The traditional magazine model, monthly, mass market, widely distributed, faces significant challenges. Malle's approach? Transform it into something else entirely. In interviews after her appointment, she told the New York Times she wanted to move away from Vogue's traditional monthly schedule. Fewer issues, but each one special. Thicker paper, better production, the kind of magazine you don't throw away, the kind you display. More collectible editions, she said. The magazine as object, as artifact, as something you photograph for Instagram before you read it. Or instead of reading it. NPR's reporting captured the strategy. Their hope is that when you buy an issue, it's going to be a sort of status symbol, a high-fashion accessory. The magazine not as media, but as luxury good. Not something you consume, but something you own. It's a significant shift in strategy. Instead of chasing the mass market, serve the devoted who remain. Instead of competing with free content, create something that justifies premium prices. Instead of fighting digital distribution, acknowledge that print serves a different purpose. Physical beauty, material presence, the weight of something real in your hands. The fashion industry is watching this experiment closely. Some see it as adapting to new realities, finally acknowledging what magazines have become. Others view it as a retreat, shifting from broad reach to elite positioning. But Malle's strategy acknowledges something fundamental. Vogue was always about aspiration, exclusion, the creation of desire for things just out of reach. Making the magazine itself a luxury good makes explicit what was always implicit. The most telling quote from Malle's media tour came in that same New York Times interview. She wanted Vogue.com to appeal less to a general digital audience and more to a fashion-specific one. Less. That word. In an era when every media company chases more readers, more engagement, more scale, Malle says less. Fewer people, but the right people. Smaller audience, deeper connection. It challenges conventional digital media wisdom. The standard business model depends on scale. Advertisers pay for reach. Investors demand growth. The algorithm rewards virality. But Malle is betting that Vogue's value was never about reaching everyone. It was about reaching everyone who mattered. And in fashion, that's a very specific, very focused group. This isn't just about business models, it's about cultural authority. For decades, Vogue's power came from its ability to broadcast fashion to the masses, to take runway trends and translate them for regular people, to democratize style even while maintaining its elite status. But that broadcasting model assumed scarcity of information. It assumed people needed Vogue to know what was happening in fashion. The landscape has changed. Fashion shows stream live. Designers sell direct to consumers. Influencers provide real-time commentary. Everyone has access to everything immediately. The general audience has multiple sources for fashion information. They can see for themselves. So, Malle is repositioning Vogue not as translator, but as curator. Not telling you what happened, but what matters. Not serving everyone, but serving the fashion-obsessed who still value expert curation, authoritative voices, the importance of editorial selection. It's a smaller church, but more devout, and that might be the sustainable path forward. The question underlying this entire transition: what role does Vogue play in the current media landscape? Can any fashion magazine maintain the cultural influence that defined earlier eras? The evidence suggests evolution rather than extinction. When Beyoncé wants to announce something, she does it on Instagram. When brands launch collections, they go straight to consumers. When trends emerge, they come from TikTok, not just runways. The entire infrastructure that gave magazines exclusive power, the controlled access, the information scarcity, the gatekeeping function, has transformed. Fashion weeks still happen, but they're performances for cameras and consumers, not just buyers. Magazines still publish, but they're one voice among many. Editors still pronounce, but they're competing with millions of other voices, many of them younger, more diverse, more directly connected to specific audiences. Malle knows this. She's spent 14 years inside Vogue watching this transformation happen, watching the magazine's influence evolve and adapt, watching former Vogue editors become influencers because that's where new forms of influence emerged. She's not inheriting the same Vogue that Wintour initially built. She's inheriting its evolution, which explains her strategic approach. If you can't be everything to everyone, be essential to someone. If you can't have universal authority, have deep influence within your sphere. If you can't be the sole fashion Bible, be fashion's premium voice. The podcast she co-hosts, the newsletters she launches, the digital initiatives she champions, they're not trying to recreate old forms of authority. They're creating new forms of connection with smaller, more engaged audiences. The magazine becomes one product in a portfolio of products, all serving the same core constituency: people who value curated fashion perspectives enough to seek them out. Here's what's notable about this transition. Everyone involved emphasizes continuity. Condé Nast executives stress ongoing mission. Malle praises Vogue's tradition. Wintour talks about evolution, not revolution. The messaging is consistent. Vogue remains Vogue, yet structural changes are significant. The title that defined the role for a century has been eliminated. The woman who embodied the institution has moved to a broader oversight role. The magazine is exploring new formats from mass media to collectible objects. The audience strategy is shifting from broad to focused. The business model is adapting from scale to selectivity. but acknowledging radical change would suggest instability. Vogue's value partly depends on permanence, on being the enduring arbiter, the consistent authority, the institution that maintains while everything else fragments. Admitting fundamental shifts might undermine that perception of stability, so they navigate this carefully. Implement changes while emphasizing continuity, restructure while insisting on tradition, transition leadership while maintaining institutional knowledge. Malle has to embody this balance. Be innovative enough to adapt Vogue, but traditional enough to preserve its essence. Transform aspects of the institution while honoring its legacy. Implement change while maintaining stability. It's a complex assignment, which might be why they chose someone who'd spent 14 years inside the organization, who'd been shaped by it, who understood its particular dynamics. She knows the role she needs to play, the balance she needs to strike. Innovation wrapped in tradition. Evolution presented as continuity. The future built on Vogue's foundation, because that's what fashion has always been: change and continuity in tension. The eternal return of trends presented as new, the same structures adapting to new contexts. Chloe Malle takes the reins at Vogue in September 2025. The reins are attached to an institution in transition, an organization adapting to new realities while maintaining its identity. The magazine will continue, the website will grow, the podcasts will publish, the Met Gala will dazzle. Anna Wintour will oversee from her elevated position, no longer editor-in-chief because that title is retired, but still central to the operation. And Malle? She'll be the head of editorial content. A new title for a new era. Leading day-to-day operations. Working within a restructured hierarchy, adapting an institution while preserving its essence. The September 2025 issue will be her first. It will carry Vogue's DNA. It will also reflect new directions. It will reach fewer print readers than peak circulation years. It might matter differently than before. The metrics of success are evolving. The challenge isn't a problem to solve. It's the nature of the role. And Chloe Malle, 14 years in preparation, shaped by the institution she now helps lead, understands this dynamic. She's working to guide Vogue through its next chapter, to help it adapt to new realities while maintaining its identity. The evolution that preserves, the transformation that continues, the future that honors the past while creating something new. That's the real work ahead, not just the fewer issues or the premium paper or the digital initiatives. It's maintaining Vogue's relevance and authority in a transformed media landscape. Fashion has always navigated these tensions. The eternal now that's always changing. The new that builds on tradition. The evolution that preserves essential elements. Malle inherited this responsibility. Now she has to execute it.